Every one of the letters that Jesus wrote to the churches begins after he describes himself. He says, I know. Jesus always knows the state of the church collectively and individually. We may think that Jesus just kind of lit up his church, if you use the lampstand analogy, and he kind of let it go. But as we know from Revelation 1 that Jesus walks intimately among the lampstands. Remember Revelation 1? He is closely connected to the church. Jesus knows what's happening in Wiregrass Church. He knows what's happening in my life, in your life, and he is well aware, whether of sin or of rebellion or of pride or of hurt or pain or struggles in your life. He is well aware. So one thing that we can rest in or be concerned about, whichever side you fall on, is that Jesus knows. And so he says here, once again, for each of the seven, he says, I know. He says, I know where you live. Did you know Jesus knows where you live? He knows your address better than you do. He knows the coordinates, but more important than where you live, he knows this world you're living in. Jesus understands what it looks like to live in the U.S. today. Jesus knows what it looks like to live in this time of turmoil and chaos and worldly confusion and all the chaos that's going on in our life. Jesus knows where you live, just like he knew where the people in the church of Pergamum lived. Where they lived was a bad place with a lot of similarities to us. So he says, I know where you live. It's where Satan's throne is. You say, what does that mean? Was there a literal throne there with a statue of Satan? No. But the political powers, the worldly influence, all of the idolatry that was available there was where Satan worked. Can I tell you this, that throughout history, Satan may work through an individual person, which he does, but he works through politics and through the world system more than any other way. Even in Daniel, it talks about Satan having to work somewhere and trying to go somewhere to cause more trouble. And so in this day and age, Jesus said, that city of Pergamum where you guys live, it's where Satan's throne is. It's where the political and the social order of the satanic venue is, and saying, hey, I know where you're at. That Satan is doing his work there through politics and through the social part of society. Can you connect with that today in America? Whether it be through politics or through the social order of how Satan is trying to pervert everything that's right and make it wrong. He says, I know you live where Satan's throne is. Here's the encouragement he gives in the next sentence. Yet you, that's the true church in Pergamum, what are you doing? You're holding on to my name. The first of three holds today. He says, you in Pergamum who are truly following Christ, you're holding on to my name, and you did not deny your faith in me. Can I promise you today that with everything that's all around you in corporate world and political world and your neighborhood, people want you to turn from your faith in Christ? I'll promise you that everything in the world and everything that the world allures you with is trying to pull you away from Christ. Interesting, last week, the church in Smyrna was pure with no rebuke. You know why? Because they were being persecuted. And I believe persecution purifies a church. I don't like persecution. I don't want it. I've never really had it. We've had discrimination, but we've not had persecution. But do you know what Satan likes to do when he doesn't persecute us? He likes to seduce us, and he likes to deceive us. Let me tell you today what I believe the church in America is struggling with more than persecution, because we don't really have persecution. We're being seduced and deceived by everything else the world has to offer except Christ. And it is a battle for you and I every day to hold on to our faith in Christ. But just understand this, Jesus knows. Jesus knows that we're living where Satan's throne is, so to speak. And that while Satan is not persecuting the church actively like he is in other parts of the world, he is seducing us and deceiving us. I would say that the seduction and the deception of what the world is offering to pull us away from Christ and his church is actually worse than persecution. You may say, wait a second, Pastor, I don't agree with that. I don't want to be imprisoned or beaten for my faith. I don't want to either. But persecution purifies a church and lets us realize what really matters. The problem is with a church that's free and in a free country like America, while there's no real persecution, we're seduced and deceived to make everything else in our life a priority over Christ.